What are some of the AI for education for the world that's kind of captured some of your attention?
Well, I think the first thing to admit is that tech lovers like myself have talked about the benefit of technology being used in education for our whole career. And the actual benefit for the average student has been very, very modest. If you're a motivated student who can get on Khan Academy 2 hours a night or watch YouTube videos about photosynthesis, wow, people like ourselves, we are able to learn in a way that's unprecedented. There's a company called The Great Courses where when I'm on the treadmill, I love watching those things. Just so much great stuff out there. But the current math achievement of a high school graduate in the U.S. is not better than 100 years ago. It's not like medicine where there's new tools and new understanding. If I said, in 1900, the best math teacher was then, you couldn't contradict me because it may be true. And so we've done a lot, and I'm a believer. But AI, because of the fluency and personalization, I think we can have very high aspirations of how we mix social experience in the classroom, experiences with the teacher, and working on your own, that correcting your pronunciation as you read things, immediately telling you, no, you didn't get this math problem right. Not turning in homework. So 2 days later, after the poor teacher spent all this time, you're like, well, was that a manipulation error? Or was that a conceptual understanding error? The AI, and Khanmigo is on the cutting edge of this, but there's others like CK12 Mini, that it'll say, yes, you those two minuses, you didn't cancel those properly, as opposed to, no, you set the problem up wrong because, these two trains, you didn't get when they pass each other, algebraic equation properly. And, so the idea that it will learn how a tutor keeps students motivated, using the domain like sports or health or construction that the student can relate to. The promise of having fantastic personal tutors in the inner city U.S. and in poor countries is super exciting. And, talk about an area that's underfunded, global education is. And the magic formula for countries uplifting themselves is to have good health and good education, and then their economy grows, their tax collection grows, and they're very self-sufficient. And that's why we want to help countries get out of the poverty trap, not because it's an endless guilt thing, but if we help them get there, not only morally, but economically, stability, many good things flow from those countries being well off. Global education is a very underdeveloped field, but particularly now with AI, I'm encouraging philanthropists to get in and showing that there are things like structured pedagogy where the teacher's given a very clear way of teaching, that we are seeing some very good results.
I really appreciate, I think some people are like, oh, the boy who cried wolf. It's like, you told me 20 years ago that, MOOCs were going to do it, or that whatever. And so, people are skeptical. It's like, are we finally there? Can you tell us more about the First Avenue Elementary School in Newark? And obviously you're super concerned about equity. Is this something that is replicable, that could scale?
Well, so I love Khan Academy, but it was mostly used by motivated students. And so for the last, I think it's like 8 years, they've been saying, okay, how do we get into the classroom? How do we work with the teachers, explain the stuff? Yes, the computers, the internet stuff is getting more pervasive. The pandemic actually helped a bit with that. So Saul and I were amongst the first two people who OpenAI was nice enough to let us mess around with early ChatGPT-4. And a lot of the cool things, like having it write songs and poems. Actually, Saul taught me that stuff. I was like, I wouldn't have known to ask. It can write like Shakespeare? Wow. And so he, has put a lot of Khan resources in. He gets support from the Gates Foundation and many others, has created this Khanmigo. And he last school year, he had it in a small number of schools, but including this Newark, New Jersey school. And so I went there to meet the teachers, to meet the students, and see, so you meet a kid who clearly is ahead of his class. And sort of the factory-based model of, 30 kids in a classroom, you definitely have a problem where you need to do remediation and catch kids up, but you're also pained by that kid who's ahead, and maybe checking out or being disruptive. And yet, you'd think, wow, we want to drive that. So the personal tutor aspect allows that student to sometimes be off on his own, sometimes helping the other students. And this, Khan dashboard, along with Khanmigo, which is seen, so when you walk in and you're a teacher in the morning, instead of people handing in homework and you have to deal with it, you just go to your dashboard and say, okay, who connected in last night? How many hints did they need? How far did they get in the progression? And, you're giving feedback. You can have the parents connected up to that. Even the thing where a paper gets turned in, you don't turn in the paper, you turn in the AI session. So you can just say to the AI, okay, how much did the student do? What's your suggestion on how we get them to either help with the first draft or help with the grammar or the logic? So it's great to see it. Being there and seeing it in person reminded me of embedding it in. And always with teachers, whenever you have some new thing, there's maybe 10% of the teachers that latch onto it and you get these great results. And then when you tell the other 90%, you must use this, those results almost always just disappear. And so, okay, how do we make this one that scales, so that humility of how far we haven't come is, even with AI, we'll have to do that. But what I saw made me even more optimistic.